Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to discuss active recall. Active recall is a study method I have personally used over the last year, and I've seen it to become my most favorite study method ever. Active recall has a great advantage by you require minimal time per subject, but remember most of it through that session. So this video will be split up into four main points. 1. What is active recall? 2. The forgetting curve. 3. How I use active recall. And 4. Why I think you should use active recall. So let's get to the first point. What is active recall? So active recall is the periodic revision of material which you need to revise. Through the periodic revision, you remember material better, and I will talk about why you revise it and understand it better in the next point. So, active recall spaced repetition helps a lot because the spaced repetition isn't always the same space every time. So, when you first learn it, you'll revise it that day, as you usually would. Then you revise information the next day, which would be day 1. Then after that, you would revise it on day 4, then day 9, then day 15, etc. So this gap repetition helps with putting information in your long-term memory. So due to this, it is a very beneficial method since you don't need to go over the same material every day or read a textbook all the time. You'd rather only have to just answer your questions or flashcards because those are two ways of doing active recall. So now let's move on to the second point, the forgetting curve. So the forgetting curve is essentially a curve which sort of goes like this. And it essentially shows how your retention of information reduces if you don't make any attempt to actively revise the information. So how does active recall combat this? It combats it this way. So every time you revise information, you are essentially putting that information back in your memory. Due to this, it pushes the forgetting curve when it's from here to this. So it pushes it to the right. It makes it flatter as well, so you remember it over a longer time period. Due to this, active recall helps you remember information more for the long term. So due to this, you don't need to rely on rote memorization or a lot of studies on the last day before the exam. Rather, you just keep on over your questions periodically and remember all the information. And that seems better than that late night stress before the exam, doesn't it? So now, talking about the forgetting curve, let's move on to the third point, how I use active recall. So personally, I use active recall through Notion, using its toggle feature which I showed in the Notion video. So I have all the questions for each topic covered in each page. So what I do is I answer each of these questions and check whether I have the correct answer or i.e. the correct points for that answer. If I do, I mark it in green saying I remember it. If I remember part of it but not the entire thing, I put it in yellow, which means amber in a sense, which means I know it, but still need to revise it better, so I forgot a few points. And red means I do not remember it at all. So the green information or the green colored information, that would be revised at much larger intervals, meaning rather than 2 days, I'd revise after 4 days or something like that. But then the yellow ones would be revised every 2 days. Then the red ones will be revised the next day itself, so that can be revised into my memory much better. Using color coding will actually help you in this process because you know what all you need to revise more frequently. You can also use Anki for this, though I personally not use a method of Anki, so I don't really like flashcards in a sense. But you can use Anki and that automatically does this process for you using an algorithm. So now talking about how I use active recall, let's come to the conclusion. Why I think you should use active recall. So I think you should use active recall because it'll give you a lot of time for things that matter to you as well. Because you only have to spend about, let's say, 15 minutes per subject because you only have to answer the questions, color code the ones which you got wrong, right, and in between. And you're done with that. You don't need to revise it after 3 days or 4 days. So let's say you have 7 subjects and let's say you spend 10 minutes per subject after completing all the color coding, etc. That means after school, you're only spending 70 minutes. That's all, just an hour and 10 minutes of studies. That sounds like a fantasy, doesn't it? But that is actually possible using active recall. So I think you should use active recall since it will allow you time to do things which matter to you, such as me being in 11th, Now to focus a bit on extracurricular activities. Using active recoil, I can make time for that because of the only 1 hour 10 minutes of study which I have to do. So thank you all for watching this video and thank you for sticking till the end of it. I hope you enjoyed the video and it proved to be informational. In case you have any questions based on the information I've covered in this video, just drop it down in the comment section below and I will be sure to answer the questions. So thank you for watching and enjoy the rest of your day.